Today on The Report, Israel has signed the first phase of an agreement to end the war in Gaza.
Governor Newsom says California universities will be defunded if they sign with Trump's new agreement.
Plus, the state of Oregon blocks the Trump administration's order to send National Guards.
And Bad Bunny's response to Homeland Security's Superbowl threat.
Hello, I'm Chrissy Washington.
I'm Sergio Gonzalez.
And I'm Matthew Wyatt.
And I'm Ty Nguyen. Stay in the loop and get updated on campus news by following us on Titan TV's Instagram page at Titan TV CSUF.
Israel's government signed the final draft of a ceasefire deal with Hamas, the first phase of an agreement to end their war in Gaza, which has killed more than 67,000 Palestinians over the past 2 years. The signing took place in Egypt after 3 days of negotiations, part of President Trump's 20-point plan. The initial phase calls for Hamas to release the remaining Israeli captives in exchange for Palestinian prisoners and requires Israel to pull back its troops to an agreed line. Israeli officials say the ceasefire will take effect within 24 hours of cabinet approval. World leaders welcome the deal as a step toward ending 2 years of destruction, famine, and what the UN Commission of Inquiry has called a genocide, where nearly the entire Palestinian population has been displaced. Analysts warn serious disagreements remain over Israel's withdrawal, the future of Hamas, and the long-term administration of Gaza. So guys, this is some pretty big news.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about it? Just kind of in this current climate that we're in. Just today, how do you guys feel about it?
Yeah, I definitely think that Israel's going to find a way to pull out of this deal or keep firing again. I don't know if you guys saw recently that I think 2 Israeli tanks were firing on Palestinians. I think it was in northern Gaza. I read about that. I personally I think that Israel's going to find a way to back out of this deal because it's not being handed to them on a silver platter. They're not getting all of Gaza. And I think that when it comes to Palestinian governing the Gaza Strip, which is what Palestinians want, it's what the world wants. I think that Israel, deep down inside, doesn't want that. They want control of that strip. They want to have a full Israel plan of that whole region just belonging to Israel.
I completely agree. I almost feel as if this could help pressure both sides to comply, but at the end of the day, I mean, you mentioned like in the past just the ability to easily fall through and just like it's so easy to question the plan's legitimacy. And obviously, I think the scrutiny of this deal is like completely justified given that track record, and I want to believe, like I want to have faith, but given the past, like I'm not too sure.
Yeah, like what you're going off of, I want to have faith as well, but like under the guise of like all the buzz around it, it seems like it's always like under the banter of diplomacy, there's always seeming to be something that always happens that obviously doesn't come through,
right?
And it's it never ends always well, like especially according to like past like peace plans that always try to work their way out, but never comes to fruition. So yeah, I think with that, the best we could do is really just have faith and hope maybe this time it'll be different.
Yeah, we definitely. But I definitely think that, I mean, Israel wants to send Israeli settlers in that region. I believe that that's what they want. President Trump has talked about taking control of the Gaza Strip to make a better Gaza. But what exactly does that mean? And do we think that really involves Palestinians being there? Israel has set up multiple camps, or I think has been in the talks about it, for just forcibly removing those people. And if we see their track record of bombing refugee camps, hospitals, schools, they don't want these people here anymore. I mean, they've leveled. Have you guys seen the pictures from the cities? They've leveled it. There's nothing there anymore. This isn't even about Hamas anymore. This is about removing the Palestinians from that region. And I believe that that's what they want to do. That is their end goal. At least Netanyahu's government. That is, I believe, what they want.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned President Trump. I've been seeing a lot of the media, the right-wing media, is just kind of giving him all of the credit for this. And I just think that, among other things, these past few months have just sort of been multiple things propping him up, multiple things that he can take credit for, multiple things that he can say happened under his presidency, which, like you all are saying, are under the guise of something else. So I'm really interested to see how this does play out, if it does actually last, if both sides do cooperate, and kind of what this looks like for Trump himself and just the future of his presidency.
We could definitely hope for that for sure. I mean, that's really, really great, yeah.
President Trump recently proposed what he called, quote, compact for academic excellence in higher education, end quote, to 9 universities, including USC. Proposing that participating universities would be restricted to teaching, quote, government-mandated ideologies, end quote, in exchange for federal funding. Section 4 on the compact states that, quote, all university employees in their capacity as university representatives will abstain from actions or speech relating to societal and political events, except in cases in which external events have a direct impact upon the university, end quote. Another section regarding foreign students reads, quote, no more than 15% of a university's undergraduate student population shall be participants in the student visa exchange program, and no more than 5% shall be from any one country, end quote. As of today, no schools have signed the agreement. Governor Newsom declares, quote, California will not bankroll students that sell out their students, professors, researchers, and surrender academic freedom, end quote. Guys, so very interesting decision made here by Donald Trump. What do you guys think his thought process was with this decision, and which universities, if given the chance, will take on and give into this compact?
Yeah, I know we kind of talked about this earlier, but I think that it's so hard for these universities because they're so caught in the middle of this conflict between the federal government and state governments, which is we've been seeing and I'm about to talk about with just all these politics. And I mean, I think we were talking about exchange students and all this bizarre obsession with controlling our state colleges. And I just think they're so caught in the middle of this conflict. Like, do we listen to the federal government or do we listen to our governor? And I think that's a really difficult place to put our colleges. I definitely think a lot of these colleges are going to cave into Trump. I mean, that's the federal government. That's going to be where a lot of their funding might come from. And the governors, they say that they're going to fight for their colleges and their states. And a lot of them do, but I feel like a lot of it is talk and no action.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Governor Newsom has been kind of on a roll recently with his lawsuits, and whoever's running his Twitter account needs a raise. I think there's just been so much sort of animosity from both sides, and I applaud him sort of, for kind of standing back and kind of like standing up for us, especially as students, and just the rights that we have as colleges and universities. But I am interested to see sort of how they respond to that. I do think that, at first when I heard about this, I was like, oh, the governor might be doing a little bit too much. I think banning them, or not banning them, but saying that they can't give in and kind of passing all these things is kind of putting the blame on the wrong person here. I think ultimately it is the federal government's fault that this is happening. It is the president's fault that this is happening. But I do see it as a way for him to sort of assert his dominance like he has been these past few months, and saying no, I will not let you just take control of our state, of our schools, of our students. And I think the restrictions that are a part of it are just really rigid and really crazy. And I think, again, like I said, it's just kind of something else under the guise to kind of sort of implement this anti-immigrant, anti-free speech, anti-protest rhetoric that we've been experiencing over, I would say, this past 2 years as students, I would say.
No, yeah, definitely. I feel like with us as students, definitely like you said, college campuses are kind of caught between the crosshairs between these two parties, and how with Governor Newsom has been though I applaud for him his defense on our students and professors to have the free will to choose whatever they want to approach in their courses. Yeah, I agree with how the federal has been kind of pushing their own mandate for colleges to oblige to. And as I'm not entirely sure if maybe college campuses would oblige to his government mandate, but I will say that whatever happens, it will definitely have a drastic impact on whatever choice they make. It will not only impact them, but also the students, faculty, and everyone who goes there. They definitely have a big decision to make. I really can see it either go either way. It's either you get this, you don't receive this anymore. Same vice versa goes for between federal and state. But I do think with state colleges, they should have a position to have their own, their own mandate in these courses. But yeah, to each their own.
Yeah, I think it's just so hard though because it has a lot to do with finances, and I know a lot of these colleges say that they stand for certain things, but I think in the long run, when it comes to the way that our country can run sometimes, and the way that, I mean, these are run by human beings, that money does play a big factor in it, and I think that they're going to fold when it comes to finances being withdrawn. And I don't know. I don't trust these presidents of these colleges to really do the right thing here. So, yeah.
Sadly.
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah, sadly,
right.
but
Yep.
they give us all the reason to think so.
Yeah, so, there we go. An Oregon federal judge blocked the Trump administration from sending federalized National Guard members to Portland. The administration continues to defend the original orders. White House spokesperson Abigail Jackson stated, quote, President Trump exercised his lawful authority to protect federal assets and personnel in Portland following violent riots and attacks on law enforcement, end quote. In last Sunday's virtual hearing, U.S. District Judge Karen Immergut approved the temporary restraining order filed by California, which specifically asked her to stop the deployment of around 300 members of the California National Guard to Portland. Governor Gavin Newsom said he would sue the Trump administration after deploying the troops and stated, quote, this is a breathtaking abuse of law and power. The Trump administration is unapologetically attacking the rule of law itself and putting into action their dangerous words, end quote. Governor J.B. Pritzker stated that this is just the beginning of, quote, Trump's invasion, end quote. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth declared that he is sending up to 400 members of the Texas National Guard to Chicago and Portland, 60 days or potentially longer. Republican Governor of Texas Greg Abbott claimed favorably of the motion, quote, you can either fully enforce protection for federal employees or get out of the way and let Texas Guard do it, end quote. So those are very strong words from the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott there. How are we feeling about just Trump kind of overreaching here with his kind of power trip moments, taking advantage of, I feel like, in my opinion, people not really standing up to him in general?
I think it's really interesting. I think he's sort of doing this thing where he's trying to steamroll over everyone until he can find someone that will abide to what he's doing. He isn't getting away with anything here in California. Gavin Newsom, like I said before, is standing up to him when it comes to deploying the National Guard and attacking our free speech. So I think he's just kind of, all right, like they won't let me do it. Surely Texas will let me do it. And that's kind of what we're seeing. I think it's really interesting. The government is shut down. The federal government is shut down. Yeah, we're sending National Guard troops and law enforcement from other states into other states. And I think it's just a really huge abuse of power, like the governor said. And I think it just sets a terrible precedent for just the power that the president has and the things that he's able to carry out against his citizens.
No, right.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And I just want to add, when it comes to what Trump is doing right now, whether you think it's right or wrong with trying to stop crime or helping immigration, ICE agents, whatever he's doing out there, you have to think to yourself, whatever side you support, if Trump is doing this and it's okay, and let's just pretend like you're a Republican, right? Or you're a big Trump supporter and you love what he's doing. If Trump is able to do this and go against governor's wishes and mayor's wishes and sending troops without their permission or the people's permission of the city into their city, what do you think the other side's going to do now, right? The other side can do the same thing now because you're doing that. You're pushing this because you think it's helping your agenda, but in reality, it's just making America so much more unstable and so much more divided and against one another and angry and hateful. And whether you think it's right or wrong, because I'm trying my best to stay moderate here, it's going to just tear us apart even more as a country, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like with him sending more troops to different states, he says the purpose of it is to protect those federal troops from further violence, right? But I feel like sending more is definitely inciting more violence. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like a snowball, I guess, of like, he said, and it starts to become, like you said, unstable. And like you were saying, it kind of he's sort of like steamrolling the whole thing, trying to abuse his power, exercise it under the guise of law, but seems more like it's a kind of a power move.
Yeah, and then unfortunately with all of this with Trump, I feel like it's too much action going on with, 400 members is absolutely outrageous. Like,
completely excessive.
For sure. I just think it's an absolute abuse of political power, and I want to quote what you mentioned and what Governor J.B. Pritzker said. this is just the beginning of Trump's invasion, and obviously this is an invasion. This is not an act of peace and whatnot. Like, this is just completely outright bad.
International singer Bad Bunny responded to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem's threat to warning ICE agents, quote, "will be all over," end quote, the Super Bowl. Since the singer's announcement as the halftime show performer, far-right commentators, politicians, and even the president have been lashing out on social media, attacking Bad Bunny for his criticism of this year's ICE raids. Some critics suggesting he isn't American enough because he performs mainly in Spanish. Last week, during his appearance as host on Saturday Night Live, the Puerto Rican singer addresses Latinos in Spanish, calling his upcoming performance a symbol of their hardworking contributions to the United States. He also humorously teases non-Spanish speakers in English that, quote, "if you didn't understand what I just said, you have 4 months to learn Spanish," end quote. So yeah, guys, I think with this, obviously Bad Bunny is going to be the singer for the Super Bowl halftime show. I just wanted all your general thoughts on this, and also how this can kind of compare to like past Latin artists like Shakira or Jennifer Lopez, and how this one, it seems more bigger in terms of the, this one tackles more on the political and cultural issues, whereas with them has been more like, dressing a little bit risque.
Right,
basically.
yeah. I think it's incredibly racist. It makes me sick to my stomach and embarrassed, honestly. I mean, the fact that you're gonna behave like that when, I mean, at least especially like California, where is the Super Bowl at, actually, guys? Do we know where the Super Bowl is? It's gonna be here. It's gonna be, so the fact that it's in California, which is majority Latino state, it's such a diverse state anyways. The fact that you're gonna behave this way and say these extremely racist comments, and first off, they didn't say, like you said, anything about Shakira and other Latino artists that have performed before. It's embarrassing. I don't know if we had kind of talked about this before, the interview with Tommy Lauren, I can't remember her name, but she was just like, how do we feel about Bad Bunny? Like, he's not really American. And then she was like, he's Puerto Rican, that's American dear. You guys remember that video? So funny, right? I'm like, this is embarrassing. And also, this is kind of a shallow thing to say, but who cares, right? I mean, we're trying to pay our bills. Who cares? And I'm excited for this. I love Bad Bunny. I love his songs. I think this is really exciting. And I don't need someone to be some patriotic country singer for me to enjoy the performance. So I think it's completely ridiculous on a lot of levels. So that's how I feel.
Yeah, I think the backlash is just, I mean, like you mentioned, utterly absurd. Bad Bunny is Puerto Rican, and Puerto Rico is part of the USA. And for many people, that is very difficult to comprehend for whatever reason. I don't completely get that. And also, it's like, I really like the idea, I mean, with a Hispanic background myself, just the idea of a Spanish speaker at the Super Bowl, because obviously that's something I hadn't seen it for a minute. You mentioned Shakira and J-Lo before, but this is, I think, a little bit of a different type of touch of Spanish, but like a really exciting one, because I think his music is great for that stage. But all the backlash, it's been pissing me off. It's been frustrating me. Like, I've been on TikTok and I've just been laughing. Like, I had a good laugh at that one clip that you mentioned.
It was hilarious, right? It was so funny.
Especially when her face dropped, she was like,
She was just like
straight up. Exactly, yeah. But yeah, all the backlash is just, it's stupid.
Yeah, I totally agree. I know we've all mentioned this. I just think it still is so funny. Puerto Rico is part of the U.S. If we didn't say it enough. And I think that it's just really interesting, and I think the administration and the critics of this are all just showing their true colors. We've had multiple Super Bowl halftime performers who aren't American. U2 is not American. We've had plenty of people perform that are not American artists, and it's okay. We love U2's music. Bono's great. And I think that it really is just because he's a Latino artist and because he performs in Spanish. And that's obviously what it's about. And I think that trying to make it seem like it's anything other than that is just a waste of time and energy, honestly. And like you all said, I'm really excited. I love Bad Bunny.
It's gonna be fun.
He's an amazing artist. His performances are great. Like you said, I think the stage is gonna be perfect for him. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what he does. And I think that this was a great sort of like middle finger to the administration that, this, if you want to attack Latinos, we're going to put one on the biggest stage in sports.
A much-needed one. Perfect timing.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah. No, I feel like, for him with Bad Bunny, it's kind of like he's just caught astray in terms of the cultural landscape and the political landscape now. Like he's kind of, right? He's kind of like
so
the punching bag now.
Yep.
But like everyone is saying here, you know, I'm looking forward to his Super Bowl halftime show performance too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
No,
gonna be
yeah,
awesome.
and it makes me sick though. It really does, because
Yeah.
we're literally a country that's built on the idea of diversity and freedom. I don't know why we're attacking people based on their backgrounds and the language they speak. So, whatever.
Yep.
And that wraps up with our recent news of today.
Make sure to stay tuned for more news, views, and info.
Don't forget to follow at Titan TV CSUF on Instagram to stay updated with our weekly episodes.
We'll see you on the next episode of The Report.